Welcome back to Passions Over Pancakes. My name is Hannah, I am your host, and today we are joined by my good friend Stephen Leininger. We met back in 2015 at a place called Summit in California, which was a 2-week intensive lecture biblical worldview camp, and it was one of the best things that has happened to me. I'm sure he would say the same. He is an author that has self-published a book called 2040. It will be linked down below. I would highly recommend you check it out. And he is working on a new book that he is co-writing with a good buddy of his, and that will be hopefully out at the end of the year. He has done a couple of things on YouTube. He's created a short film. He is setting up a Patreon. If that is not already linked below, check back in about a week and you will get some unfiltered access to short stories, a couple of blog-style posts, and a lot more like Q&As, and just the behind the scenes of writing and the behind the scenes of Stephen's life. Thank you so much for joining in, and Stephen, let's get into this. So Stephen, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I am very excited to be on this Zoom call with you. So tell me a little bit about what got you into writing.
When I was a kid, really the goal was to be famous in any medium. So, I mean, that is why I started playing guitar when I was 11, because obviously wanted to be a rock star. And being a famous writer out of every famous thing you can do is probably the easiest to at least attempt, because all you got, pen and paper, it's fine. That's, I don't know, that's why the initial thing, 20-ish years ago. And then in the last couple of years, there was just ideas that would pop into my head. Yeah, someone ought to write these things down, and that's probably me, isn't it? So you just get going, and I mean, that's really it. One of my favorite filmmakers says, I don't make movies for anyone else but me. I tell the stories that I would want. I'd make the movies I would want to go see in the theaters. So that's kind of what it boils down to. Like, I write the stories that interest me, and if it interests other people, cool.
I love that.
I'm a simple man.
I love that. I think that's an easy way to not get disappointed too. That's kind of the mindset I'm having with this as well, with Passions Over Pancakes, is if people want to watch it, cool. If not, then at the very base layer, I'm getting to know people on a deeper level, and I'm getting to connect with people. And I think that's really cool with writing too, just doing it for nobody but yourself. That, I don't know, I love that, because a lot of people go into it with a lot different of a mindset of wanting to impress other people, and just doing it for yourself is really cool. Did you write in high school or anything like that, kind of just getting ideas started?
Yeah, I attempted a book when I was in high school, and I think I got about a third of the way through actually writing a draft. But honestly, it was terrible. It was a piece of crap. I had a kid at my church who read it and would get back to me on it, but I revisited it. I printed it out, and I found it in my old apartment in Maryland, and I was like, this is just terrible. I hate this. Honestly, looking back, I can't even tell you what the point of it was. I'm working on the book now, and I could tell you what the one sentence plot of it is. That thing, I have no earthly idea what it was. It had some fun moments flipping through the pages, but it's bad.
You have to start somewhere though, right?
That's true. You do. And in quasi defense of myself, your first draft is always going to be terrible. So there is that, but I would never try to improve upon it, I don't think.
That's fair. When you started writing, and I'm sure there were many, many drafts, especially of the book that you self-published, were people supportive of that, or did people have any pushback for that? And even now, is there pushback on being a creator and being a writer, or are people really supportive of it?
For the most part, people are pretty supportive. I think we live in a day and age of creators. And I think really, as long as you're not just trying to become a YouTuber, one of those obnoxious, like, this is me every day of my life. I wake up at 5:40 in the morning and I make espresso coffee. Like, if you're not doing that, I think people are pretty into it. That and SoundCloud music. I don't think people are into SoundCloud music because it feels like everyone is doing that. Which is one of the things I think is really cool about Passion Over Pancakes, is that this is a really cool idea. Like, and it's not about you, which makes a big difference. It's about connecting with other people and showing off how wonderful and creative other people are. I think that's really cool. But as far as writing goes, people for the most part are pretty supportive. Even after my first book, and it's actually kind of funny to me that you say you liked my first book. Because not many people told me that. And that's not to say like they didn't like it, just I didn't get a lot of positive feedback in general. Like even when I met Bree, I gave her or when we started dating, I gave her a copy of my book. And she called me one day and she goes, okay, do you have a copy near you? I said, yeah. She said, turn to this page. I turned to that page. She goes, start reading it aloud to me. And I read it aloud. And at the bottom of the page, as you turn the page, it's a totally different scene. In my rush to finish it, I left stuff out. Like I removed a section and forgot to fix what I had. Yeah. So it's a mess. So it's something. But for the most part, people are supportive. They want to read it, of course. And I've gotten, especially for Patreon, as a ongoing writing thing, people have been really interested in that. So that's been really encouraging too.
That's awesome. Remind me when you published 2040.
I published that, I think it was March 10th, 2017. 2017. Because when I went to Summit, California the last time, it was already out.
Gotcha. Okay. I remember being so stinking excited. I told everybody, I must have still been in high school at that time. So I remember telling all of my friends, and you had done, I don't remember what platform it was on, but like people could pay for a signed book or a signed poster or something like that. And I remember being so excited about getting my copy. And I have it, I think it's in a box because I'm moving soon. So it's probably in a box upstairs. But I remember reading the note and being like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. Because I know that this is going to take you really far. And I know that this is a passion of yours that can get you places that you maybe never thought that you could go. And so one day I'm going to still have that book upstairs. And I don't know, it's going to be really cool reading back what you had written. And I do remember there were things in the book that I don't know if in the published copy what Bree was seeing was in the published copy.
Oh yeah, it was.
Was it? Okay, I don't remember that. But I mean, I just remember being, and I still am, just so proud of you self-publishing that book and just holding in my hands something that you have worked so hard on for, I'm assuming, years or at least months, a very, very long time. And that, no matter how it turned out, that was just really cool as somebody who knows you. And all of the people in my high school, I passed it around to everybody in my friend group, and everybody else thought it was super cool too, because just some guy that, isn't famous yet for his writing is getting a kickstart and doing something that I'm assuming you were really terrified to do. And so that's just really inspiring to me and to a lot of people that have read the book in my circle, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well, which is really cool.
So when you say passed around the book, you didn't just like hand it to them and you go, look at this. Like, did they read it?
Yeah, they read it.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I had no idea that it would be like shareable like that. That's really cool. I never thought anyone would ever. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I hope they got a good experience out of that. Cause as I don't think highly of the book now. Like, it's something I did once and it's cool. Like, I did it, I pushed it out, it's there. And I think the premise is still a cool idea, but going through it tends to be kind of I wouldn't call it painful, but it's not great,
That's fair.
But yeah, you mentioned the the thing I did to where people could buy a signed copy. Yeah, I did an Indiegogo.
That's amazing.
Because Kickstarter is all or nothing, and Indiegogo allowed me to, even if it's $5, even at the end of the time, if I only had $20 there, I would still get the $20. People could still get their stuff.
That's cool.
So that's why I did that. And I set the goal for $500 because it's the lowest you could. And no matter what, the book was going to get made. And I just wanted, like, if people want to, like, a pre-order a signed copy, I'll mail it to you. If you want to just pay $9, $10, I'll get it to you. And we hit $500 in 4 days.
Wow.
So that was mind-blowing. I remember I did it on New Year's Day. I launched it on New Year's Day. And I was at my grandmother's house. And I checked my Indiegogo on my phone. And I had $300 by like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was crazy. Like, I had no idea. And it was all people I knew, except one guy. I still don't know who he is. Just one random guy. Maybe he's just scrolling through Indiegogo and saw it. But that was absolutely mind-blowing. Had no idea people would be that supportive. I have some friends who just put in $100 just because, didn't even click an option of what to get or whatever, but just did that. I have one other friend, a photographer, I think from Boston, who donated another $20 just because it was $20 away from hitting $500. And like, he had already gotten a book. He was like, he texted me. He's like, I just wanted to see it hit 500. That's it. So I had a really crazy amount of support as someone who had never done this before. Had never written anything really, had never published, and only kind of was just talking about writing a lot. And I had plenty of time to talk about it. I worked on it for 3 or 4 years before it got out there, but that's my own fault. There were just so long periods where I just never worked on it at all. But great experiences from support like that.
For sure. That's incredible. I didn't realize that it had hit 500 that quickly, and it sounds like you have a really good support system behind you in writing and in life in general, especially with that project.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal.
That's so cool. I love it. So what are you doing now with writing?
So right now I'm working on my second book. So 2040 was 3 years ago at this point. And in about 2015, 2016, I sat down with a buddy of mine. We had just seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and we hated it. And we had this moment of, man, we could have done a better job. We could have done a better job. So we started tweaking different ideas of fun little stories. And one of them just like took. And I was like, this would be great. What if we co-wrote a book? And it just sat there. And then last January, I had him come over and I said, okay, I want to do this thing. Let's make 2019 the year we wrote a book. And we did. We started it in mid-February, and we finished our first draft July 4th. And now we're in the third draft of that book, and probably can be done by the end of the year. Good. And then outside of that, I'm currently working on a writing Patreon where people can donate $2 a month, and I'll be releasing a short story every month, or as often as I can, which should be about once a month. And then they'll get like Q&As and little chats, and I have a writing soundtrack, so I'll be updating like a playlist on Spotify for people to check out, and there's something else, I can't remember what. So I'm currently working on setting that up just to function. So that'll probably go up June or July or something like that when I really get it done. I feel like there's something else. I'm trying to read more. That's the other thing. That's about it.
For sure. Very fair. Okay, one thing I want to mention, for all the people listening, go follow his Spotify. I've been following his Spotify for years, and he has great music. If you're in college, he has great music to study to.
Oh, man.
And also, you know what? When you're on your computer and you see all the things that your friends are listening to?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's how I find all my new music, and that's just how I find great playlists. And, okay, Stephen, you have a great music taste. You have everything from Reliant K to, I think, Drake. A very
No,
You
I
don't have
don't do
Drake?
Drake.
You
I
don't do Drake? Okay, I don't know who I'm thinking of then, but I know you have a lot of Reliant K on there, and I love it. So,
Yeah.
anyways, go follow his Spotify. It's great. Can you give us any details about the book that you are currently co-writing?
Maybe a little bit. She found a squeaky toy.
You're good.
Your other non-squeaky toy? Okay. She's just gonna do that, and I'm just.
That's totally fine. It's live. That's totally good.
Yeah. I'll give you a little bit, not a whole lot, just because I'm co-writing it.
Totally good.
The most I'll say is that it's a superhero story, and not your average one, because I'm writing it with one of my best friends, Liam Renner, who is a huge comic book nerd, and I am not. He's the guy, whenever I would go see a Marvel movie, I would text him afterwards, okay, so can you explain that ending scene? Who's Thanos? Whose hammer was that? Like, I remember seeing Thor, or man, what movie had Thor's hammer at the after credits, whatever. But I remember texting him like, I don't even know what this is. So he's explained all of that. So as we're going, he can tell me what powers don't get used much, or it's hard to use this power because then you have these problems storytelling wise. And yeah, so it's a superhero story, and there are definitely homages and hints at other stories, whether it's, X-Men, the original X-Men movie, or it's just stuff where, like, it would be really crazy if, this thing just exploded, or this building collapsed, or all these stuff. It's fun to take what other people are doing, arguably successfully and also arguably terribly, and do whatever we want with it. Since we're not using, established franchises like Marvel or DC. That's been a lot of fun.
That's very cool. Okay, and it's okay if you can't answer this, but can we expect any type of anything in the book that is like a comic book, like any of the photos or any type of graphics, anything like that?
Yes, I can answer, and no. The closest I've gotten is there's like sound effects that I spell out,
Yeah.
like wop 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 of a helicopter. That's about it. I really enjoyed one of my favorite books is Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, and he describes something as the wop 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 of a helicopter, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, you can do that in books. It is such a stupid, simple thought, but as writing this one, there are crazy things that happen, and if some just wall of energy goes across a field of sand or a plane of sand, whatever. It's not a dune. It's a plane of sand. Like, what would that sound like? So actually having to sit down and think about, like, what would that sound like, and how on earth would I spell it? Like, because it's hard spelling. You just can't. It's been interesting trying to do that. But I think that's the only comic booky thing that's in there.
That's cool. I'm excited about it. That sounds really, really cool.
I am also excited about it. And given how I feel about 2040, at its current stage, I think it's about 20 times better than 2040 and more engaging. A big difference being that 2040, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no vision for where it would go. I would just sat down, what do I want to do today? And every now and then a scene would pop in my head. I'd write that, insert it in the story somewhere. But in this book, Liam and I sat down with an outline. We knew what we wanted to do when. I actually have a post on Patreon planned where in my old bedroom when I lived with my parents, we had written on my wall pieces of paper, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and like little post-it notes around them of stuff. Let me take out my puppy real quick.
You're good. You're totally good.
All right. I am back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So with this new book, you said that it's going to be done most likely by the end of the year. Does that mean that people can expect to be able to see it and purchase it in 2021?
Um, what I more meant is I think people will be able to see it and purchase it by the end of this year. I think.
Oh, awesome. Okay, very cool.
I would love for that to be the case. I wouldn't be heartbroken if it is 2021. But I would like it to be end of this year. And I think it's doable.
Very fair. That's exciting. Wow. Okay, and
Yeah.
will this be self-published too, or will this be through a company?
No, it'll be self-published. I really don't like the idea of going a traditional publishing route. It just takes too long, and I'm not trying to be ultra fancy with it. I don't want to have a team of people. I just want to do it the way I want it, at the price I want it, and let people have it. Yeah. I decided a long time ago that 2040 would be $10 or $9.99, whatever, because apparently it's recommended you do that. Because I really hate going to a bookstore and seeing a paperback book that's super thin and it's $25. Like, I get it. You're proud of it. You want to make money from it. That's not the way to do it. I don't think that it's worth $25 for small paperback books or all that. So I decided that for the foreseeable future, my stuff will be $10 because it's just a book. It's gonna, and from what I've heard, my writing is really easy. You can finish it on a plane ride home. People have told me that. So it's, it's an experience that is cheaper than a movie, but will last longer, and I'm happy with that. I'm so happy with that.
For sure.
That's a big get for me, is being able to charge what I want, and I'll have the cover that I want. That's a big get for me.
For sure. I backing up for just a second, I can attest to it being an easy read. I read it when I was procrastinating for studying for AP tests. So it was great. It was wonderful. It was a great procrastination tool. I learned a lot and about myself for procrastinating, and it was also just it was a great read. But okay, so with self-publishing, as you continue to become bigger as a writer and write more things, would you ever consider doing a traditional publishing company?
I might consider it, but I don't think it's likely that I would actually do it. There's also the deadline aspect of it. I would much rather meet my own goals than an external third party saying you need to finish this by June 2021. Because similar to your current Passion Over Pancakes, I'm doing this underneath a full-time job.
Right.
And so having that kind of deadline kind of doesn't work. And initially, I wanted to have the whole book done within 2019. But in that time, I moved states. And I got another job. So there was like a month and a half where I didn't write at all just because I did not have the time while still maintaining a healthy marriage. It just wasn't happening. So yeah, I like self-publishing, and the tools are always getting better and better. The company I use to publish 2040 actually, in my opinion, doesn't exist anymore. It's called CreateSpace, and it was owned by Amazon. And between then and now, they have only done Kindle Direct Publishing because it's Amazon. So they've effectively shut down any actual printing.
Gotcha.
But in that time, about 10 other companies have popped up in its place with better options, better pricing, and better tools to do it yourself. CreateSpace was a very shoddy website. It reminds me of government-created websites. It's just like, it's here just to do this function and not even look nice. It's not well designed. It just barely passes as functioning. And it was buggy, just not nice. Whereas we have other things that are as well designed as YouTube. I want to go with that guy. So I can't see myself going traditional, really. It's easier to do what I want.
That's fair. That's very fair. What does your writing process look like? Because I know before you had mentioned that if you have a scene in your head, you'll go ahead and just write it down real quick. What does it look like now that what does it look like before, and what does it look like now that you're co-creating something really cool with somebody else?
It's actually really interesting you asked that because both experiences are vastly different. I didn't have much trouble writing the first draft of this one. Like I had maybe 2 days worth of writing block the whole time.
Wow.
Most other times I was getting in at least 700-800 words a session. Whereas the other book I'd get in 300-400. How it used to look was I would sit down on my computer, I would find music to listen to, and I would wait to be in the zone of that music. Because if it's music like you're listening to the lyrics, you're enjoying it, and the lyrics are playing in your head. And then I would just go. But the cool thing about that, though, was that there were songs that would influence how the story would go, and songs that reflected the mood. So when I finished the book, I actually had a soundtrack to the book, and that was kind of cool. Something I'm actually also doing with this book, like an actual, like as you read, this song correlates to this part, which is fun to do. And then with this one, similarly, I would put on music, but I wouldn't wait to get into a zone or a zone. But I would just try to, this is what I'm writing today. This is where I left off yesterday. I'm going to do it. Another big difference is I wrote every day. As often as I could, I wrote every day. I missed, I think, 2 or 3 days total from February to July 4th, which I'm really happy about. There were just a couple days where I didn't have the opportunity, whatever. And then when I was doing 2040, I was waking up at 8:30 and then going to work. I would go to 7-Eleven for breakfast and eat at my desk. It's terrible. And I would write in the evenings and on weekends and stuff. For this, I decided I was going to wake up at 5:30 every day and write until whenever Bree got up. I feel like she got up around 8 or something like that. So that was 2.5 hours right there. So that's lots of time to get stuff done. And that just worked out a whole lot better. 2.5 hours every day, just getting it done, was really good. It was fun when I finished the first draft too, because what is advised is you finish your first draft, you leave it for 2-3 months, and you come back to it. So in this 2-3 months, I still maintained that sleep schedule, waking up that early. But I would just watch movies because I love movies. And at the time I had Amazon Prime, and they have a deal with a studio called A24, and they make weird movies. They're kind of more mainstream now, but they would just make movies that no one else was making. There's a movie called Mid-90s, which is made by Jonah Hill, and that was really something. That was one great one. I finally saw the Friday the 13th movies. Those are actually really fun. There's just a bunch of great movies. I would just go down a list one at a time every day, and that was fun. And I think those are the big differences between writing this time and that time. But it was way easier and way better this time around. I had a way better time doing this. I think part of that is because I think the story material offered a lot of better opportunities for cool stuff to do. That 2040 didn't offer with the setting that I had put it in. So, but that went a long way this time around.
Very cool. Okay, I have one more question to wrap everything up. But before I ask you that, do you have anything that you want to say anything that we didn't cover, anything that you really are dying to say before we wrap it up?
I'm really excited about this book. I really am. The more I talk about it with Liam, in just quick conversations of like, how this guy, what happens to this guy? What if instead this thing happened, which would lead to these other 3 things later in the book? And just being able to kind of geek out about the stuff we're able to do with it, and different ideas that he has, and the co-writing process, which has been really fun, just sending stuff back and forth, and not being afraid to say, like, I saw you did this. That was really stupid. And him, being close. I've known him since I think we met when I was 11 or 12. So we've been friends for a long time. He was at my wedding. Being close enough to be able to say, this thing was just real dumb. Can we do something else? or just, being able to say you're uncomfortable with something is a big benefit to that. I'm really excited about the story, and I'm excited to go through the process of the last book as well. Finishing the book, getting a really great cover, doing a book trailer. I really want to do a release party again. That was so much fun the first time around. I rented my friend's condo for $100 and just had people show up, and it's just really fun stuff. And I know you did this, but when people bought the book or got the book in the mail, I said that they should put a picture up on Instagram or something, and people did that, and that was so cool. So I'm just excited for all the little things down the road with that. Like each step is just something else that's fun, and it's just really exciting.
I'm so excited for it. Hearing you talk about it and hearing just how excited you are about it is. I just keep getting more excited about it the more that you talk about it. So you should just hurry up and finish it so that we can all read it. That's I mean, do well, but
Yeah.
All right, and one final question. For all of the people who may want to be writers or aspiring authors, maybe it's a blog, maybe it's a book, or maybe they want to write about sports. Maybe they want to, do something in a magazine or the newspaper. What advice would you have for them if they're scared, or if they maybe don't have the support system that they need, or they just don't know where to start?
Really the same thing with writer's block is the just do it approach. You can write down total garbage, but you're doing something, which is something I really struggle with. Like you're not supposed to backtrack. Like if you're writing, you're not supposed to backspace anything. I do because I'm paranoid, and that's not being paranoid. It's peculiar might be the best word I can think of right now. It's just doing it, just putting pen to the paper. Quentin Tarantino, the filmmaker, he doesn't use a computer. He writes everything by hand. His movies are like 2.5 hours long. So it takes commitment, like to purposely get carpal tunnel to do that for this is a big commitment. And, this is going to take months of your life to do this. So it's worth it to get to the end. So really just doing it. And as for the support system, the internet is a wonderful place. So if you don't know me, I really like photography. I've been doing it since 2016, but in the fall, I decided I wasn't going to do it anymore. I like music and films and filmmaking and writing and photography, and I decided, I read a book called Master of One, which is about doing the thing that God designed you to do, finding that thing and putting your entire effort of your life into this thing, because why would you do the thing that God didn't design you to do? And be mediocre at it, because I don't think it's John Piper, but it might be, who said Christians are at the forefront of a ministry of competence. And this book said, why on earth would we just merely be competent? If I've ever described someone as competent, it's usually derogatory, Yeah. But our God is the prime, sovereign, holy example of excellence. And as Christians, we should have a ministry of excellence, and we should do everything with excellence. We don't do a job to completion because, well, it's done. No, we want it to be a good job, an excellent job. And I think that makes a big difference too. And so with that in mind, I was like, you know what? I don't think photography is my thing. And after a lot of trying just to figure it out and talking with my wife about it, we think storytelling might be my thing. And I'm inclined to agree. I'm not great at filmmaking, but I have a great appreciation of great films. I love talking about them, which is, here's something maybe you can link later too. I'm starting a podcast about movies, talking about movies.
Awesome.
And she pointed that out. She's like you have this podcast idea of talking about movies. So that's like an appreciation of storytelling while doing storytelling. And so I dropped photography. I do it from time to time, but it's not my thing by any stretch of the imagination. I'm trying to do writing and storytelling and develop the craft of that, getting in your purposeful 10,000 hours, not just 10,000 hours, because anyone can do 10,000 hours. But if it's purposeful and intentional, you can greatly succeed, and your 10,000 hours will be here and someone else's is here. And that's a big difference too. Just doing that. But with that, my Instagram used to be very photo related, and now it's just talking about writing and pictures of my dogs as I'm writing, because they just like to sit there when I do it. But my point with that is I've found a lot of other writers and book enthusiasts on Instagram, and that's been encouraging. Oh yeah, I read that book too. I liked it. I also love Stephen King's On Writing. That's honestly everyone should read that, because it's half biography, half writing. He's a fascinating person. But yeah, the internet, man, Facebook. If Tumblr is still around, there's always writers on Tumblr, Instagram writing accounts. They do tips. I love talking about writing, so if you find my Instagram, send me a message. I would probably be very, very interested in reading your work if it's out there. Yeah, and there's Patreon if you have an audience for it. Wattpad is a free writing source. Blogging, there's WordPress. I have a WordPress blog, which is moving to Patreon. There's a million and one resources. I think the one thing I wouldn't do is go to school for it. I'm not anti-college, but I'm not really for college. If you need letters behind your name, college is a good thing. But if it's in the arts, you can learn it on YouTube by reading and by doing. Yeah, just do it. Doing it is the best thing. And in your travels, you'll probably meet other writers. Yeah, it's and I've met people at work who heard us talking about it, and they were like, I think I want to contribute to your Patreon. So there's always something just randomly that can happen with that, but nothing's going to happen if you sit there. There's that. It gets everywhere. I think there's a sticker on my wife's laptop, but it's from The Office. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. It's stupid now, but it's true.
Yeah.
Look, nothing's going to happen if you sit on your butt and you don't do anything. I wanted to write a book. In my opinion, it's mediocre looking back, but it's out there. But it led, you're going to produce crap so you can produce something great. It's always working to improve. It's one of the things George Lucas is not very good at now. The Star Wars movies were great, and then he went back and he changed it and he changed it and he changed it. Create something, let it sit, let it die if you need to. Create the next thing. Just move on, move past it. You're going to create something that sucks, that isn't very good, and as a creator, you're probably not going to like it in a month after it's done. So create something next. The things I dislike about 2040 are things that I intentionally didn't do this time around. And that, learn from the bad things you did, as you should in the rest of your life. It's no different.
I love that. There's something that you said in there that I'm gonna go right on my wall or something. The intentional 10,000 hours, and then just a regular 10,000 hours. That is a huge difference. And you're right. People who do it intentionally are going to be so far ahead of people that are just doing 10,000 hours just to do 10,000 hours. That's a huge statement to make, and I think that's really powerful.
That's actually from the book Master of One, which I should say is by Jordan Raynor, Raynor, and it's a phenomenal book. Everyone should probably read it, because it's about where your calling in any field. I mean, he talks about everyone from Olympic athletes, to Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers didn't find his calling until he was in his 40s or so, and it was his show. So it's worth reading, worth checking out. It gets very introspective on an appropriate level, I think. Sometimes I feel like a lot of self-help books miss the mark a lot, but that one I thought was very apt.
I'll have to check that out. I've heard about that in passing, but hearing that little nugget is really going to make me run to the libraries when they open up after this is all over. So
I underlined a lot in this book. I would recommend buying.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Amazon it is. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Stephen. I am happy to see your face again after 3 years, and I'm also really happy to get to talk to you and learn more about what you're doing and all of that good stuff. I'm really excited about what you're creating, and I'm excited to say that I know you as you continue going through everything, and I will link everything below for anybody that wants to check him out, anybody that wants to DM him, get any information on self-publishing, any writing help, anything like that. I hope that I can say that you are more than happy to do that, and I know that I can say that because I know you're
Yes.
But awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Of course. Awesome. All right, and we will catch up with him again potentially after this upcoming book.
That'd be fun, yeah.
That would be fun. Awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.